Good evening, everyone. Great to be back doing our lives. Now, welcome to those who have just joined us. Really good to have people join us at the same time as we're presenting so that you can participate, you can ask questions, you can comment, and I'll be checking those comments coming through. And straight away, we've got one. Hi, Therese, nice to have you with us tonight. So there's going to be a little bit more to tonight's podcast than was advertised. So for those who may not have seen our lives before and don't know me, I'm Helen Houghton, leader of New Conservative Party here in New Zealand. Now, what will happen is I did put up that we were talking tonight about biology and free speech, but there's a few extra bits we're going to add to that because I've had some interesting feedback recently. I've had some parents talking to me about some things that they are experiencing. And so I'd really like to touch on that. But there's also some events that have occurred in New Zealand over the past few weeks. So I'd like to start with that before the scheduled talk of biology and freedom. And just to let you know, so how we're going to do this, because there's around 3 different parts to tonight's talk. So what I'll do is at the end of each one is when I'll have a look at the comments and see if there's any questions instead of waiting right to the end, because each section is quite different. So the first part will be discussing some of the events happening around New Zealand, and then the next bit will be around biology, and the last bit will be around some parents that I spoke to this morning that are here in New Zealand and have got some pretty major concerns. So I'll be sharing their story. And we also have a mum who's going to come and join me on the show, probably in about 20 minutes. And she'll also take some questions from the audience if you have any questions for her, but I'll introduce her a little bit further down the track. So as I said, great to see you here. Thank you for those who have tuned in. If you are watching this recording later, you can always leave a message as well on the Facebook and we'll get back to you for that. So the talk tonight will start with the events happening around our country in New Zealand. And a little disclaimer, I'm not promoting any particular group about these events. I'm just opening this up for conversation. And then, as I said, I'll conclude by addressing the conversation I had this morning with some parents. Now, rainbow story time, zebra crossings, minority groups, and dragons. Oh, I mean drag queens. Sorry about that for the drag queens out there watching. Now, we've just had Easter, and unless you visit a church, you probably wouldn't even remember now, except for the Easter wrappings that are in your bin. No matter whether you have any religious beliefs or not, we know that Easter is significant for our religious communities, many of which are our friends, neighbours, colleagues, and our families. Likewise, when we have Easter, do we see flags flying with crosses or any insignia advertising Jesus or promoting a religion? Do we celebrate a Christian day, week, month? Just asking some questions here. Now we have Rainbow Month, rainbow crossings, rainbow painted buses, painted police cars, institutions that are fully embracing identity politics and vibrant displays across every school, library and uni campus on everything rainbow, right down to promoting using flippin' pronoun signatures. Now, I don't think flippin' is a curse word, so I'm pretty sure I can get away with that. I don't even know which month is Rainbow Month anymore because it's Rainbow Day every day, which is fine for the rainbow people. So don't tell me that you're oppressed. Now, radical sections of the rainbow community cry victim and tell me, they cry victimhood consistently. Now, I'd like you to go and check the history because Christians, for one, as well as other communities, have been and are still persecuted today, where in many nations, even their Christian communities are underground. Yet, do we talk about them? Do we celebrate them? No, only LGBTQ plus communities are a victim. Rainbow people are a minority group, a protected group. Religion is also a protected minority group. I don't recall hearing or seeing Christians, Jews, and others demanding to get society to accept or embrace them. Yet with fervent campaigns spouting, you're a faggot, oh, wrong word, sorry, bigot. Now, of course I use that word deliberately, but I'm just wondering for the people who are watching, bigot seems to be accepted, yet faggot probably isn't, I dare say. Just wondering and putting it out there around hate language. What about wearing lanyards of colours? I mean, you're a bigot if you're not holding banners of inclusivity and diversity. In fact, you don't hear a lot about religious activities at all, probably because they're spending a lot of their time supporting the communities. And yet a particular section of the Rainbow Society are all about self, internalizing everything about them. And I bring that up to your attention because it's all about me, me, me. You need to acknowledge me. You need to affirm me. You need to embrace my belief. You need to stand up for me. Otherwise, you're a bigot and you're non-inclusive. So I don't know about you, but it's getting rather monotonous. And I can understand why there's pushback. And this goes back to what's happening in our communities around the Drag Queen Storytime Hour and those who are painting over zebra crossings. When individuals are compelled to adopt beliefs that are contrary to our own values, of course it's going to lead to resentment, frustration, and even resistance. So I'm not sure why the media is focusing so much on these acts as if they are a hate crime. It is not a hate crime to stand up for your belief. It is not a hate crime for you to be repelled or repulsed, maybe the word is, by somebody else's choice of living, whether it's dragon reading to children or strip club entertainment. It is not a hate crime to have a different view, a different worldview than those who are living their way. So I've written some of this down because I don't want to forget some of the things that we're talking about tonight because we are going off track a little bit. My take-home message to you around all of these events that are happening about the zebra crossings is that all people have autonomy and should not be subjected to act in any particular way towards another person or group, whether it's affirming or required compliance. This incessant manipulation from members of the Rainbow community, calling on others to uphold a sense of duty to safeguard their way of thinking, is not only ludicrous, it's obsessively narcissistic. That's my view. And just to finish this first part of our talk tonight, this constant need to be validated by strangers is alarming and places, first off, a false expectation in society of compliance with having to align to the views of another's opinion. Secondly, how devastating is it to a person's self-respect not to encourage them to draw on their own power, resilience, and strength? I mean, really, people, do we want a society that needs to get their sense of self-worth from the affirmation of others? I'm just going to check to see if there's any comments, because before I lead into biology, we might have some people that have got some comments on some of the things I've touched today, because it's really important, in my opinion, that our freedom to express our views about what we're thinking, our thoughts, is fought for, and that we keep it free as it is in our New Zealand Bill of Rights Act, because there's a lot of people at the moment who are trying to take that away from certain people and only allowing one particular group to have their views. Somebody has said that the rainbow people are selfish. Okay. Another person has said 100% they agree. Wonderful. Good. And these things need to be said. Well, actually, we just need to be able to talk about it, because, like I said before, it is not a hate crime to have discussions. And if I say things that you don't like or you disagree with, you either don't have to listen to me, you can switch the channel, or you can debate me, which I'm really, really happy about and look forward to the conversations or the debate. So bring it on. Okay, right, moving right along to the next part of the talk tonight. And just to let you know, it's been a wee while since I've done a live, and hopefully it's working. I hope that everyone can hear. I'm pretty sure you can. But there will be more of them soon. It's just things have been quite busy at the beginning of the year with other issues that we've all had to deal with. So you'll be seeing a lot more of us soon. Okay, now leading on to biology, not ideology. Men and women are different. I know, who would have thought? How does sex matter to you? Well, I tell you what, it doesn't only matter to me personally, but it also matters in social, medical, and political contexts for me. Now, I am no biologist, so I'm not going to sit here and give you a 101 biology lesson, because I'm not a biology teacher. So I'm going to bring in an expert. And because I couldn't have him on the show, I'm just going to share a little clip from him. His name is Dr. Colin Wright. He is a biologist, and he is an academic advisor for evidence-based gender medicine. Now, he has a talk, and I'm not going to share the whole talk. It's roughly about 5 minutes. So for those of you who are watching now and you think, I'm not interested in the biology, that's okay. We're going to come back and discuss the parents and your rights as a parent after this. So you might want to watch it or not, but I'm just going to bring this little bit in, and we're just going to play 5 minutes of this. It's really important, from an actual expert around biology. Let's hope. Oh, that's not good. How am I going to do this? Just bear with me while I work out technology. Those who know me know how much I love technology. All right, it might help if I push play on here.
Armed with that knowledge, we can reclassify what all these different, what they would posit as multiple sexes are. Forward. Again. So we can see that they're actually just composed of two sexes, males and females. Yes. So just two sexes, because they're trying to conflate sex determining systems or sex, chromosomes with outcomes, but really those are just different compositions, different chromosomal compositions within the male and female category. So we're going to go back and now talk about sex eliminationism, which again is this notion that sex exists on this spectrum of individuals where you can only statistically approximate sexes. Sexes aren't real. It's interesting to point out that these arguments are actually in conflict with like the sex expansionist approach, because if you don't think sex is real, then you certainly don't think there's a finite number like 5 or 6 or whatever, but they never debate with one another. It's always those two groups, which are actually the same people, debating with people like me who say there's only 2 sexes, because the goal isn't really to have, find out how many sexes there are or destroy sexes. It's really just there can't be 2 in their minds. Like, that's the only thing. So you get the same people using arguments about, there's 5 sexes, and then they'll flip once you destroy that argument. They'll say, oh, well, sex isn't even a thing at all. So it's it just depends on the context, however they can win an argument. So this is, you usually hear these types of arguments. The sex elimination one is encapsulated in the term sex is a spectrum. And this has two main sort of arguments to argue that sex is a spectrum. One is based on intersex conditions, and the other is based on secondary sex characteristics. So intersex conditions are basically these conditions that people can have that result in the appearance of ambiguous sex in terms of their genitalia, or sort of a mismatch between their chromosomes and their outward appearance of sex. And then secondary sex characteristics are basically the differences that arise during puberty. You know, males grow taller, we get more upper body strength, we have voices get lower, more facial hair. Women develop breasts, they have wider hips and certain pad distributions. So these are things that develop, you know, downstream. These are the downstream consequences of sex, and they're called secondary sex characteristics for a reason. It's because they're secondary to what it means to be male or female. Let's go forward. So we're going to talk about the intersex conditions first, the argument from intersex conditions. So this, I think, has been stated very clearly by Alice Drager. And she said in her book, I think it was Hermaphrodites and the Medical Invention of Sex, when she says hermaphrodites, she means intersex people. So just keep that in mind. So she said that hermaphroditism causes a great deal of confusion, more than one might first appreciate, because as we will see again and again, the discovery of a hermaphroditic body raises doubts not just about the particular body in question, but about all bodies. The questioned body forces us to ask what exactly it is, if anything, that makes the rest of us unquestionable. So I think that's kind of the distillation of the argument from intersex conditions, saying that some people are intersex. What really is sex? We can't really say anything about anyone's sex if some people are, you know, have these conditions that sort of blur this line. But this might sound like really profound if you don't like know anything about what males or females are. But it's just sort of this pseudoscientific woo-woo. Like it's just completely not true that because some people might, you know, who are at a glance difficult to place in a male or female box, you know, based on their genitalia, that we're all somehow in this, cast into this realm of complete uncertainty. Like that's just not the case. Most people, like a coin flip, are either male or female. You know, you don't get a coin flip that's 70% heads on a single flip. It's either going to be heads or tails. Maybe you'll get, you know, with the nickel, I think 1 out of every 6,000 flips will land on its edge. That doesn't negate the existence of a heads or a tails. And the prevalence of intersex conditions is about the same prevalence likelihood of a nickel landing on its edge, from 1 in 5,500. So go forward here.
How to open your car door while submerged underwater. A fatal construction flaw in all recent automobiles makes it virtually impossible.
Okay, what's going on with that? Silly ads. Sorry about that, guys. Just 1 more minute, bear with me.
So we also see graphs like this. This was in Scientific American, just trying to make sex seem so complex that we can't say anything. We just need to throw up our hands and let people self-identify in any sex that they want to. Forward. So forward again. So the idea here is that intersex conditions aren't evidence that there aren't more than 2 sexes or against the sex binary, because intersex conditions don't result in reproductive systems that can or would or did produce a 3rd or 4th type of gamete. So they would need to produce something like a spurg or a speg in order for this to be.
Right, I thought I'd stop there. Where are we? Okay, I thought I'd stop there because, I mean, that was quite funny. But there's another little bit in a minute, and then we're going to hit on to something else. But I quite liked his woo-woo. Intersex. The reason I wanted to share that, not only because he is an expert, and it's pretty sad that I actually have to share a biology lesson with you all, but you know, some of you out there have probably heard the argument that comes back, oh, what about intersex people? You know, well, there you have it. You know, I mean, and none of us are saying that there's not those differences in the chromosomes, but it doesn't mean there's a 3rd sex or a 4th or a 50th sex. Now, I just want to share him because that small bit, but to also let you know, obviously you can go and look at the rest of it yourself, because there's some really good content in that. And I'll just share just another tiny little bit of it because it's relevant to New Zealand schools.
In order for an intersex condition to truly be like a new sex, okay? Again, sex ambiguity is not a third sex, okay? Intersex conditions, if maybe we're all exposed to radiation and future generations, have 50% prevalence of intersex conditions, that still wouldn't mean there's more than two sexes. It would just mean there's a lot of people who are difficult to place at a glance. They have intermediate appearing genitalia. There would still only be two sexes. So the prevalence of intersex conditions has no bearing whatsoever on how many sexes there are. Sex is still binary, no matter how many, the prevalence of intersex conditions. Okay, so we're going to move on to the arguments from secondary sex characteristics. And remember, these are the characteristics that sort of differentiate during puberty. We're talking like Adam's apples in men, facial hair, upper body strength, breasts in women, etc. This is in scientific papers, but it's also in your child's classroom. This is the genderbread person. A lot of you have probably seen this before. And we're just going to zero in and see how they describe biological sex. So zooming in, one, they won't even say male or female. They just say maleness or femaleness, and they all start from 0 and go to wherever. And the description of biological sex here is the physical sex characteristics you're born with and develop, including genitalia, body shape, voice pitch, body hair.
Okay, I think you get the message there. Now, the reason I wanted you to see that little bit is because I can confirm that very lesson, that page is identical to that has come out of classrooms here in New Zealand. Many parents have actually seen this lesson, and so it's not some made up conspiracy theory. It's not something that's just happening overseas. It is here in New Zealand schools, alongside many other lessons which I have talked about previously and on the radio, on Reality Check Radio as well. So if you haven't heard about those things, you might want to go back and listen to some of that content. But as I said, tonight we wanted to touch a little bit on what's been happening in New Zealand around the rainbow crossings and the dragons with their story time. So drag queens, I've got dragons on my mind. Drag queens and their story time reading. We have touched a little bit on biology. Like I said, felt it important to actually bring a biologist in, and I'm sure many of the biology teachers out there would probably agree with him on this. It'd be actually, if there's anyone that's watching this at some point and you are a biology teacher, I'd love for you to come on the show and actually have a chat with us and try and tell us, whether you agree with the Dr. Colin there, or if you have some different opinions. We'd love to hear from you. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a section that I hadn't planned for, so I've changed up the talk a little bit. This morning I had a phone call from a parent, and I ended up talking to the mum and the dad. We had a conversation for over an hour. It actually grieves me when these parents need to contact me and talk to me to share the stories of what they're dealing with in their home with their children. It grieves me, and I get quite angry as well, because it's the New Zealand school system that has caused what's going on for these parents with their children. I'm going to share their story. I'm actually going to read out their story now, and I'm going to then open up for anyone if they've got any comments or questions, because I'm also bringing in another mum, a mum who I have travelled around Christchurch down here in the south, holding meetings where her and I would talk about what's going on in the schools. And Nicole, who's coming in, she is also a parent of a child who has transitioned. And so she's been through the system here and what has happened in the school. And now these other parents who spoke to me this morning, it sounds very, very similar to what Nicole has shared before. And I'm going to bring Nicole in and she may have some comments that she'd like to add to the story that I'm about to share. Interestingly, in the afternoon, I also had a call from another parent. So 5 years ago, when I brought all of this out and went to Parliament and spoke on it, the MP at the time, Kieran McNulty, told me that the evidence that I was bringing was from overseas, and he didn't believe that New Zealand had a problem. Now, I'm having phone calls, as you can hear, about parents who have got, the challenge of their children who have fallen into this trap, I call it, and they are dealing with this here in New Zealand. I've met parent groups here in Christchurch. There are groups in Wellington. There are groups in Auckland. And for those who are watching this later, if you're out there and you're dealing with this as well, there are groups out there to support you, other parents going through same thing that you are right now. So there's a lot of messages that I'd like to share, but I think it's best actually if we hear from the parents, the ones who are actually dealing with it. So I'm just going to read the account of the mum and dad who I spoke with. We had a video call today. They're in New Zealand. They live here. About 2 years ago, around the end of the COVID-19 lockdowns, our daughter, who was 12 years old at the time, told us out of nowhere that she was trans. We had no idea what it was all about, so we decided to take her to a psychologist to understand what was going on. We have been looking for a female psychologist for a few months as we understood it's all about her body image. However, we did not find anyone. They all said they were busy. After a while, we asked one of the psychologists whom we already knew to help us, and he agreed to see her. The psychologist, after a single one-on-one appointment with her on this issue, told us in front of her that she was born in the wrong body. And all her life, she was a boy. And from that moment, we must refer to her as a boy. So the psychologist, who has had one meeting with her, has turned around and said this to the parents. The psychologist insists that we will tell her that she is a boy. In brackets here, it's got, this meeting is not over until you say to her that she is a boy. This is what the psychologist is telling them. Needless to say, we were in shock. He suggested starting with the blockers immediately, adding that it is all reversible. This is here in New Zealand, people. We told her she was a boy, even though we knew she was a girl, obviously. Again, we had no idea what it was all about, as we had never heard about this concept before, and we left the room. The next morning, our daughter asked for the puberty blockers, as the psychologist suggested. So we start to read and educate ourselves about the subject. Very quickly, we understood that something horrible was going on, and we couldn't believe what we were reading. Children are led to believe that they were born in the wrong body, so they are sterilized and destroying their bodies with blockers and cross-sex hormones. It can't be true. Also, we have found out that during this time, the school behind our back has changed our daughter's name without our permission and knowledge, or trying to hide it from us. Today, we have no idea what is going on at school behind our back and what she is learning in relationships and sexuality education at school. Is she learning biological facts or imaginary ideas? We lost our confidence in the school system and also in the mental health professionals. We now know that we can't trust the psychologist to tell our daughter the truth, that our sex cannot be changed. All she needs to hear is a professional who will tell her that she is perfect just the way she is without destroying her body. Today, we are very worried about her future and cannot sleep at night thinking about all the harm and horrors that can be done to her in the name of gender ideology and in the name of be nice and be kind. It's our kids' life that is on the line. We feel completely alone and isolated. We cannot trust anyone. We have no one to go to. We trust no one. We need the government to listen to our concerns. So this is going to be addressed to the government. We believe there are a lot of families in our position with similar stories, terrifying to talk and terrifying to lose their children. We believe that the conversion law had horrifying consequences. Many psychologists are too afraid to help kids like ours. They can't ask any questions regarding their feelings and their imaginary gender. And the result is families like ours are left completely without any real help. And all we can do is watch in horror as our children want to destroy their bodies. So 1, we would like to ask for the immediate removal of the conversion therapy law regarding gender. Children need help and they don't get it because of this law. Psychologists are too afraid to help these children to understand their real issues. 2, we ask for an immediate change in the curriculum at schools regarding sex education. Children should learn only biological facts and not belief systems, as promised by the government. 3, schools shouldn't change the name and pronouns of the children. 4, please let parents decide what is best for their children. And so that was 4. 5, please stop the experiment on our children and ban any blockers or cross-sex hormones and surgeries until at least the minimum age of 25. Now, I'm just going to bring Nicole in because I was meant to do that just a moment ago. So Nicole has joined me here, and that's pretty horrific reading. And, even for those who are out there listening to that, some of you may have similar stories. And I'm sorry if this is affecting you in any way. And I'm sorry for all the parents out there who are struggling with this. If there are any young people out there or young adults who have gone through this and you're listening, and if you need support, please get in touch because we can put you on to some people who will support you. None of this is easy. Nicole, would you like to add any comments about what you've just heard, or
I brought me back to a lot of the painful memories that I went through as well. We went through it a bit sooner than the parents that you just spoke to today. We went through it in 2017. And I was very much alone. Obviously, it is very, very difficult. You feel like your whole world is being torn apart, your whole family's being torn apart because of the behaviour of your children. It's very, very difficult to navigate through parenting a child who is ideologically captured like that. And just like it's not just the ideology, they're suffering also the effects of emotional abuse. So that any child who is emotionally disassociated is experiencing some sort of abuse, be it sexual or emotional or mental, physical. It's really, really difficult because they don't want to talk to you about it. They've been told not to talk to you about it. They've been told that their parents are, if they don't support, then the parents are the toxic ones. And this is everything that somebody who is abusing your child is going to do to them to to try to make them be whatever they want to be. Like for someone who's an abuser, it's the same that we see for Stockholm syndrome. So people who were abused are actually going to identify strongly with their abuser, but they're not actually going to know that that's what they're doing. It's a very, very difficult thing to navigate for trying to get your child to actually see what's going on, because they're very emotionally led. They just, they just want to please and be accepted and be loved, and that's normal. Like every teenager wants to do that. Every young person wants to do that. So they're doing a very normal thing, but they're actually being exploited, and they don't see that they're being exploited. So yeah, I've been through. I mean, I've been at this a lot longer, and seeing my daughter deteriorate in her relationship with me, certainly, and deteriorate in as much as she is just not thriving, not able to hold down a job. And I don't believe she's trans at all. I think that this testosterone is messing with her emotions and her mind, and turning her into somebody that I don't even know. It's similar to watching somebody who is drug addicted, because you have to do all the same things. You have to you have to detach with love, and you have to have firm, grounded boundaries, to just be a rock for them, to speak truth and reality about everything, not just gender. I mean, you can avoid using the names. You can use in darling and pet names that you've used since they were little, but you've got to be grounded in every other aspect of life, and not suffer fools gladly.
It's very challenging though when you have institutions like, doctors, surgeries, and
Yeah,
obviously the school system. I mean, they have such a mistrust in the systems because
yes,
not just of that, but the overwhelming campaign in society for the affirmative model, and it's trying to get any advocacy outside of that leaves them, I tell you what they tell me, leaves them concerned that if they speak out, that social services will actually uplift their children, for goodness
yes,
sake.
yeah,
When on earth did you ever hear of communities afraid to speak up for the fear of that kind of behavior? I mean, we have heard that, right? But it's like the erosion of the trust and social cohesion. I mean, we're seeing it, aren't we? It's like I talked before about the freedom and imposing beliefs on citizens that are completely opposite, right? And it's so, they're afraid. They're afraid. They don't have anyone they can talk to, because as soon as they do, then those, the doctors, even their own doctor at one point, turned around and was trying to blame them, that saying that they're the problem. And so it's like they can't reach out to anybody, so that's a real problem with
it is,
the
it is.
fear around that.
And I went through all that too, and I still struggle with giving my trust to any teachers, any doctors. If I need to go to a doctor myself, I am very mistrustful of everything they say. I'm mistrustful of any therapists. I'm mistrustful of, anyone in authority, really. Even like seeing someone in the street that's covered in like trans lanyards, I can't help but think, oh my goodness, there's a crazy person, and I hate that about myself. But it has emotionally left me in so many, just tattered, and my family, that I don't think they understand. Like it's not like I was being hurtful or horrible to my daughter when she went through this. She went through it, and I was always there, like telling her that I loved her, and she still wants nothing to do with me. It's still destroyed the family. So there is no, and I'm not the only one. I mean, there's been plenty of parents out there who have affirmed the whole way, and that yet their children still go like, I'm 18 now, you can't do anything, I'm off, you're nothing to me, you're toxic, you're transphobic, you're a bigot, and it's heartbreaking, because this is the kid that you've loved, and you know that they know that you love them, and they're doing it because they know that you love them, and it's almost like there's a subculture going on of, it's cool to hurt your parents with this thing, especially if they're Christian, and I mean the mind boggles to me of how people in authority can think this is okay to hurt families like this. I mean, I don't know where it's going to end, because there's going to be an awful lot of people who turn back on them eventually and say, hey, look what you did to us.
Yeah, look, I'll talk a wee bit more about that soon, but I jotted down a couple of things, what I felt as myself as a parent, what my responsibility was as a parent. And so as a parent for myself, I know that it was my responsibility for my child's physical, emotional, and psychological well-being, as well as their basic needs. We also have a duty to prioritise their safety, protecting them from harm, which can include advocating for them. You know that. It is parents who play the crucial role in providing emotional support and nurturing their children's social and emotional development, including fostering positive relationships, listening to their feelings and concerns, and helping them navigate challenges and emotions. Now, it is parents who are responsible for setting boundaries, establishing rules, and guiding their children's behaviour. It is parents who have a responsibility to impart information, cultural, ethical, and moral values to your children. So while all this is happening, I'm thinking about the government at the moment and how, I think it was David Seymour, they're talking about fining parents if their child's a truant. So we've got all these responsibilities and roles as a parent, as we know, okay, and yet all of a sudden we have a school system who feel it's their authority to now override a parent's rights and authority to go against what that parent wants for their child. I mean, when I talked to the family today, they told me, you know, a bit more information, a bit more detail about than what I just read out. And it's about how the school have reacted, how they have, you know, lied and hidden the fact that their daughter was going to school with the daughter's name, you know, the girl's name. And it took a wee while, but one of the teachers slipped up by sending, I say slipped up, I know it's horrific, but sent home a report with the boys, you know, with the boy's name, with the name that the girl has been using without the parents' knowledge. This is so real and it's happening, and you just can't, the mind boggles to think that this is not just, are we allowing it, but there are people that are playing into it and actually deceiving, you know, people that we trust. We talked about trust. Those that are in the trusted position of being an educator, you know, and it's actually been led from the top. So this came from government. This, you know, I don't have time right now to talk about all of that, but those who have allowed this to come into the school system, and there's some other areas I really want to discuss. You know, we're talking now about yay for New Zealand First, and yes, I'm pretty happy with some of the things I've seen with this government. However, what's her name? The Education Minister, Erica Stanford. Now, she's reviewing the relationship and sexuality guidelines, and obviously we know New Zealand First has promised to remove gender ideology from the classroom instruction. But we know, you and I know, and the parents out there who are listening know that this is much wider. you just heard the teachers, the parent, they deceived the parent, you know. The parents thought that the child was their daughter still, and it still is, but at school she's got a different identity. And you know, and then they challenged the teachers on that, and eventually, after numerous emails and things, eventually they admitted that they made a mistake. But the thing is, did they do that just to, you know, shut the parents up? And are they still, you know, talking to their daughter as she's a boy? So they don't even know. And it's like, how did we become a society where we're allowing this kind of behavior? So there needs to be a lot more than just reviewing, Erica Stanford, just reviewing those guidelines, because this is so much wider. This is about taking away parents' rights, taking away families, the trust in families, that bonds that family have. It's just despicable, really, that this is happening. I mean, you know, I just blurted out a few things when I scribbled today. What our responsibilities are is huge, right? As parents, it's really big. And yet all of a sudden, if your child says that they feel uncomfortable in their body, which, let's face it, puberty is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't imagine there'd be anybody out there listening who can come back and tell me that they remember a fun time during puberty. Okay, we could share stories. We could talk about what puberty's like. We know it is uncomfortable. It's not, I mean, it's normal to feel uncomfortable. But what we've got now with all the social media influencers, with the nonsense, even different people that have got involved in policy in Parliament, different political ministers in particular parties, which we know, you know, are pushing this whole deconstruction of sex, of sexuality, and all of that. But you know, as adults, whatever. But when you are impacting children, the vulnerable children like this, in my opinion, it is criminal, 100% criminal. And you know, I really hope that you're able to give some tools or some advice to the parents before we go today. But there is one thing that, yeah, I mean, is there some tools that you have, you know, you've experienced a lot, like you said, you've been through this for how many years? When did your daughter first start?
2017. She was 17 years old, so she's almost 24 now, and she's still not well. Tools. I think I see a lot of parallel between Al-Anon family groups and what our kids are doing to themselves. So anything that you can get your hands on, maybe even going to an Al-Anon family meeting. I mean, it's not alcoholism that we're dealing with. It is another drug, be it testosterone or be it as estrogen. It's just a coping mechanism of not being codependent to every little thing that your child says. I mean, I've heard my daughter say that she's going to be a builder, she's going to be a bricklayer, she's going to be a mechanic, she's going to be like all these things, and they lasted for about 5 minutes, and she can't. So she was just trying to get a rise out of me, and you've got to learn to not rise to it. Just be really grounded, and you know, this thing, it keeps a mother awake at 3 a.m. in tears, because it's just heartbreaking. You can't sleep, you can't do a lot of things, because it's just so devastating, the grief. And there are plenty of wonderful people speaking out right now, like Michael Schellenberg has just released the WPATH files.
Yeah.
A lot of great things are starting to turn the tides, and we really need to stand up with all of these people who are shining a light on the lies, and hold these people accountable, because they are doing what it's not really that much different to frontal lobotomies, or what Joseph Mengele did at the Nazis, the children, sterilizing children. Um, is the end result is the same, child unable to thrive, unable to have a normal, you know, life, to have children of their own, have a family of their own. It's a normal human right to do those things, and just because some children are vulnerable and emotionally vulnerable, maybe on the autism spectrum, high functioning autism, like myself and my daughters, and my other daughter as well. I've protected her. You've got to, if you don't trust a doctor, if you don't trust teachers or a school, you've got to find a safe place to protect your children, whether it be a small country school that for a fact they're not going to teach your children lies. You've got to advocate. You've got to advocate in your school, and just ask your kids, like, all the time, what are they teaching you? Tell me what you learned. Like, no, really, really tell me what you learned. Let me have a look at the schoolwork that you're doing. What do they teach you in science, and all the things, because you've got to go to the school and say no, thank you. And if they throw the toys out of the cot, then you know that they're personality disordered, and you have to push back, and you just say no. This is the new drugs.
Yeah, you're right. I think what you're saying is right. And I've talked previously about, I think it was roughly 5 years ago, maybe longer now, since I first went to Parliament, and there was basically nobody else talking about this, apart from Family First. They were doing it, and the political party that I'm now leading, they were doing it, and that's why I got involved with them, because I'm like, wow, yeah, there's somebody actually standing up for this nonsense. They tried to take me to the teaching council to have my registration taken off me. It gets really nasty. But what I want to share with some encouragement is, from there to now, 5 years later, there are numerous groups throughout New Zealand who are standing up, who are speaking out, who are advocating for children to remove all of this stuff. We have talked so much about this, that parents now, they are coming together, they're forming their own groups. And we do have somebody in the audience now who's making some comments, and I'd just like to share one of the groups I know of that she's involved in, because it may help others that are listening here, that they could actually reach out and go in there. And I know that you're involved in a group, or is that not something we can share?
Oh yes. So I'm involved in a lot of groups. There's a lot of groups out there that you can become involved with, and
but more New Zealand based ones.
New Zealand based, Australia based, America based. It's all over the world.
Yeah. So Karen, I know that Karen's out there listening, because I can see her. She's said a couple of comments. She said, yes, this is what people are worried about. She's also said, yes, a lot is coming out, and we need to unite and speak out. Now, I've met Karen at one of the talks that I have been out to at Parliament, and I also know that Karen has a Facebook group where just a lot of people who are concerned about the stuff that's in education, not necessarily for those parents who are dealing with it, but Nicole can help with that shortly. So, Karen, can you put a message up so I can share the group name? The face, or is that something invite only? Maybe actually I just realized maybe that's an invite only. Maybe if you can send me a message and let us know if that's something we can advertise. It's called, okay, great. I'll just put that up on the screen. So it's called Parents Against Gender Education NZ. So if there's anybody out there who is also struggling with this in their schools, or you're just a concerned parent, I think obviously you'll have to answer some questions to be into the group. But there you go. Jump on there. It is, she just said it is a private group, but you can, but yeah, it is a private group, but obviously you can, you know, go through a bit of a screening, and if you're the right kind of person, legit, you'll obviously get on there, and you can, you know, be with a lot of other people of like minds and get some support. Now, Nicole, are you able to give us the name of any groups where parents are actually going who are dealing with this with their children at various forms? I mean, I know some are only just starting the early stage of it, but others of you have been through horrific, you know, horrific things where your children are actually now living as the opposite sex. So can you give us a name of that particular, or a group?
There's a worldwide group, GenSpect. I think that was from, you're probably familiar with that. I noticed that they had a logo on the bottom of the video that you were showing earlier.
Yeah.
GenSpect is New Zealand, Australia, now also just coming to America. Began in Ireland with Stella O'Malley. She's an incredible speaker and psychotherapist. So that's just one very large group. Another one is Fourth Wave Now. They're actually a group of detransitioners who are speaking out and supporting parents with great advice, great insights. And then, well, let's see, there's Parents with Inconvenient Truths About Trans, I think it is, on Substack, PITT. That's another group that you can actually subscribe to and read the stories of many mums and dads and even detransitioners who just an outlet to share what you're going through, stories of what people have gone through, the support for you know, just help of how to navigate it all. So there's a few there.
Oh yeah, there's some. There's the few in New Zealand. I think they're all really good ones to. Yeah, I think anything. I mean, like I said, when I didn't find anything in New Zealand, I was all overseas finding, you know, my research and everything from over there. So all of those names are really good. But I think for New Zealand, it's really good if they can, like, because then they can join, not just join up, but then they can go meet other parents who are dealing with it as well. And there's one there I've just put up, Let Kids Be Kids. That's another group. I think the parents are involved in that. And of course,
but if somebody wants to join up, sorry, Helen. If somebody wants to join in New Zealand, they can get in touch with Karen or myself personally, and we will make sure that there's a vetting process. So we'll make sure that they're actually like a safe person, I suppose. You've got to be careful here.
Of course.
And we'll definitely welcome them with open arms to give them whatever support they need here. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I noticed there's a few comments there. Rachel, yes, Rachel, you're right. And the last one, she said, how did we allow this to happen? Yeah, how did we? 5 years ago when I talked about it, people didn't know it was happening, Rachel. I had, sad to say, but one of my teaching colleagues actually telling me that she respected me, but she didn't think what I was doing was right. And, because, lots of people just didn't see that this was harmful. And, you know, look at us now. We've got, in some schools, there's 4 or 5 children identifying as another gender. I've met teachers who have told me this. Yeah, so it's certainly, we're not exaggerating. This is very real. And, you know, while the old, what's his face, McNulty was like, yeah, we didn't have a problem. Well, we certainly have one now, and I knew that would happen. And, you know, to me, it's like, why do we have to wait until we have such big numbers who are, you know, having to deal with this? It's just shocking. It's shocking. Now, I just got a message as well for any medical or even educators that watch this now or later. I'm going to give you some cautionary advice. So I will help parents as well as any adults who may have been led down this path as children, where they've been captured, disfigured, mutilated, sterilised, and I will help them sue the arse off of you. You can be assured of that. The day will come. So let's work better now for these people before it gets to the part where you have your day in court. That's just something that I want to give you some advice on. I also would like to say that I urge a public policy debate on all things gender related. There is no treatment model other than gender affirming currently in New Zealand. That's not to say that there are not doctors and psychologists who agree with the affirmation model, but they choose not to go near patients seeking their help, afraid of losing their license. Now, this has been clear in the story, the account that was told to me today, and I've seen it in the school system. A lot of teachers, they know this is nonsense. They know that they should not be doing this, but they're not actually, well, they're afraid. Quite frankly, they're afraid. You know, for those who may not have been watching before, we've talked a lot about the teaching council's requirements, the criteria to be a teacher, and they've made it so difficult now that, you will not teach if you do not accept this as truth and help children to transition, basically, affirming them. I mean, this is happening here in New Zealand. If there's anyone watching this and you have your own story to tell, you know, it's all anonymous. Of course, you know, we're not talking about the parents who have talked to me today, but we can connect you with other parents. We can have a chat about some things. I know some people, who would be quite happy to talk with you. We are for you. We care about you. You know, I've been doing this for 5 years and Nicole's been doing it for longer. There's other people across the world who have been championing for children. And so, yeah, I'm grateful for those people who are standing up now. And look, that's not to say that some good people out there haven't, have just made a mistake thinking that affirming was the right kind thing to do because you've been misled. It's never too late to change and to jump into this fight. And I actually know some teachers who now have jumped into this fight. And that reminds me of the group, was this Gender Education, I think? Yeah, pretty sure that's the group of teachers, ex-teachers, and some of them were involved in, you know, this whole process when it first came into the schools because they weren't really, well, they were hoodwinked, basically. Another comment there. Yeah, Charmaine, that's all very well for those who have got a faith, but, you know, this is, you know, we're talking about parents here and what we can do to help them deal with what they're doing. Well, do you think it's great? I have no idea what you're talking about. And yeah, obviously you are here as a troll, no doubt. But if not, you can talk to me later. Give me the evidence of whatever rubbish you're talking about. Yvonne, department will be releasing a document next week critical of sex change surgery. Good. Okay, I'll look out for that, Yvonne. There's some really good stuff that's come out of the WPATH files, and we are unpicking that, and we're going to be talking to some people in government about those things. We've got lots of things that we are involved in. So if you want to get involved and help us, please get in contact. This is going to take all of us, not just a small group of people speaking up. It's going to take the nation to actually stand bloody up, please. I get a bit heated because it breaks my heart to see children going through this and being misled. You know, a lot of these children have other illnesses that they are not getting supported with, and it's criminal. The medical, I mean, there's so much more to this. Of course, there's, you know, a lot of people have got a lot to gain by deconstructing sex. Big pharma. It's a lot of money, but you know, we've been on for 1 hour already, and I can't talk about all that stuff, but I do have a lot of evidence on surgery costs and all of that. And yeah, just to finish, okay, well, touch base with me and we'll have a chat. Charmaine, New Zealand. Yeah, well, you can't tell people that though, because, you know, free will, eh? Yeah, so, but look, happy to have your conversations. It's great for people to participate. This is all about free speech, right? None of this is should be shut down. We shouldn't be silenced when we want to speak about anything. We need to protect our speech, protect our expression. You know, we have got the rights to seek and impart information of any particular kind, even if it is so bad that we don't like it. You have got a problem with it, debate. Okay, I encourage you to bring your debate to me on this issue if you want to. We will see you again soon. Have you got any parting words, Nicole?
Oh, just thank you for the opportunity for coming on and having the opportunity to speak and share this important issue that's affecting our youth and our vulnerable youth and our mentally vulnerable youth. It's just too important. It's a whole generation that we've got to stand up and protect. They don't know what they're doing, and it's going to become evident very soon after the WPATH files are exposed. It'll be undeniable, and we've got to be the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff for our kids, and just love them, help them to come through the other side of this brainwashing. It's a lot. It'll be a lot for them to decompress and heal from. That's for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. That reminds me, some people might know that I was going to do an interview with a detransitioner, young guy here in New Zealand, and you know, bless him, he's an amazing guy and very brave of him to want to do an interview. At this stage, he's just postponed it for a wee while. So for those who have been asking and are waiting for that, as you can imagine, this rips the shit out of people's lives, and so we just have to give him the space he needs for when he's ready. So I will update you as soon as I hear more from him when he's able to have an interview with us. If there's anybody else out there that wants an interview about, actually basically not just this, anything, we'll be having a few more lives. And send me a message. What do you want to talk about? And we'll see you again soon. Good night, everyone. Thanks for your comments. Thanks, Nicole.